It was fabulous. I learned so much. I felt empowered as I left the class. I mean, I really felt more intelligent when I walked out. There was so much information that I really just didn't know and hadn't thought about.
It was neat to see that she's on the other end of it too. She's not just, handing out stuff for us. She's also on the other end. She's learning and doing her own homework.
Basically, she would talk about things that I don't know, amazed her, like stuff that she didn't know before, like the caste system not existing. She found that very interesting, and she came to me about that. And the story about Superman, about the two Jewish boys who would go home and create this character, because they were outcast and they made him from a different planet.
Well, it makes me realize that I'm not the only student. She's a student too. Everyone's really a student. It's just you have a different teacher. It doesn't matter. It could be your mom, it could be your English teacher, your math teacher, your grandma. It doesn't really matter, but if someone's teaching you something you didn't know before, everyone's always a student.
Learning, well, it never stopped, so I always thought she knew everything. So, she was actually learning more stuff, and I was learning through her, and then learning stuff at the same time as her. I'm like way younger, because she was relaying the message straight to me.
Well, as an English teacher, that's perfect for me. I mean, that's what I do. I found as even an AP literature teacher, that AP language, is that really your taking the Minerva course was really more beneficial to me than even taking some of the AP College Board certified courses. I really got more content from your course than I did from the AP college stuff, just because it was so many different viewpoints and it was based on critical thinking and really thinking about the world as a whole and pulling in, it was the texts that we pulled in were great, and they were great to bring back to my classroom too. Because I think really, truly one of the best teaching tools is modeling, and they need to see you doing it and actually being excited about learning. And it's okay that if in class I sound like a complete nerd and I'm really excited. One day I was really excited because oh my gosh, I thought Muslim was with the Z sound, but it's really the S, and here's the rationale for why it is. And I know the kids looked at me like I was crazy, like, oh gosh, it's Mrs. Sperry and she's talking about a Z and an S sound. But in reality, I bet you they'll remember it. Like, cheesy as it is, they will remember it and they will say, the word correctly.
It was, I find it interesting because I studied Islamic ways with my father, who was a Muslim. And I didn't know that, and I actually looked it up myself when I got home to see, and that she was right. It was I think a derogatory statement towards the Muslims.
It brought to the fact that really with my own teaching that I should spend more time in giving the students different views and allowing them to then give them different viewpoints and then choose what they feel is right or what they feel is most interesting. Because I think a lot of times in the past we get stuck in a moment where we think we need to teach to a test and we need to have them get the information that they need. But it turns out that really, when you really start educating, that it's really better to have them come up with them themselves. And I do think it takes more time, and sometimes time is what we have to spend on it to get a better result.
Everyone's got a different viewpoint. We did work on Plato and philosophers, and it just depends on where you are in the world, the way you see things. It's if you're in the cave, like in Plato, or not in the cave, what do you see the world as? It could be completely different. We talked about how colors exist, and if they all have the same name, but do you know if the person next to you sees the same shade of color? Like red could be purple in someone else's
People like to generalize an idea for one whole group, but it actually changes amongst each person in the group. So I always think, it depends on who you're talking to. You can't really make assumptions on one religion of a whole because, people practice in different ways. So there's really no one answer to any question.
They were different. It was really great. There were some conversations where, especially one that was a little heated, was the caste system, where it's why I was in this class the other night and I learned that the caste system, the way we've always thought it was, isn't. And for New York State students that have all taken their global exam, their teacher told them, this is the caste system, this is what it is. In fact, this is going to be, number 53 on the multiple choice exam, answer, C. So for them, it was very upsetting at first. They had one boy, who said, I've seen videos and I've seen the Untouchables and I know that this happens. But we really ended up having a great debate and talking about like the references to Christopher Columbus and how we used to think, have a holiday, and just how when we start learning more information about it, that it's not true, and that in the future, yes, we know this about Christopher Columbus, yes, now we know this about the caste system, and then, what next? Like, what are we going to find out next with new research that maybe isn't exactly the way we thought it was? So it was really enlightening.
We talked about different things. We talked about the caste system and because she was going to school, so we learned about what she was learning, and all sorts of different stuff that she would bring in and tell us that she found interesting. Or she's always really enthusiastic about everything she's learning, which I think is great. So learned a lot about stuff.
Well, we argued on some of the aspects, like about the caste system. I've seen videos and about people in India saying, "Oh, I'm untouchable." So we had debates, but then I always listened to what she had to say, and she listened to what I had to say.
I think it made them more open, and I think some of them it made them even more accepting of each other. And
It's weird because I've gone here, I see all these people every day, so I just kind of picture them. Those are the kids I go to school with, but they've all got separate worlds outside of this building, just like Miss Sperry's got a world outside of this building, and everyone's got different opinions, and I wish I could keep in touch with everyone that I've ever met to really to see where they go and what they end up doing with their lives. So.
Because a lot of people that I associate with is narrow-minded, and they have one view because of the way they were raised. It helped me to open my mind up and be able to take insight. Most people get offended when you have something to tell them that they don't believe.